I remember the exact moment I realized how fat I'd got, right? This was early morning. I, of course, got up, just sat on the toilet, sitting on the porcelain right after waking up, right? Taking care of business. And I was looking at my sides and just seeing my belly like tower over my hips. And I was just sitting there, like asking myself if this is the new normal for me, right? And the truth is, it became my normal slowly over time. And I was finally realizing that I didn't want it. Like, I didn't want to look like this anymore. And, I wasn't overweight because I was lazy per se. I was taking care of business at work, everything. And I wasn't overweight because I lacked discipline either. I was a good worker, right? And it definitely wasn't because I didn't care about my body. I definitely cared about everything along those lines. But I feel like I was overweight because I was just doing a bunch of things that felt healthy or even sounded like smart that people were recommending to me, but they were basically keeping me fat, right? I did everything that I thought would work, especially early on, and the scale barely moved. Or worse, I'd lose weight and then I'd basically just gain it back within the next few weeks. So even with all my efforts, it just wasn't happening. But luckily, of course, I found the way out of all these traps and got the body I wanted, right? I really wanted that movie star shredded look like Zac Efron from either Neighbors or Baywatch. Neighbors started it for me. And the truth is, it can be done naturally. But you got to stop falling for the traps that keeps everyone fat and stuck, right? There's a lot of mental games, a lot of biological games, right? So in this video, I'm breaking down all the real things that, kept me fat. And, this isn't like surface level tips. This isn't like the eat less, move more crap that everyone says, because these blanket statements, they seem correct, right? At the outset. But your interpretation can hurt your progress without even knowing, like how you apply these principles. So if you want to finally optimize your body, you must avoid all 13 of these mistakes, in my opinion. These are mistakes everyone falls for. So out of all the people I've coached, anyone who's tried to lose weight before working with me, of course, the most common mistake I see is people making the number 12 mistake. This is the one that consistently keeps people fat, including myself. So let's get into it. I got my notes here on the side. So mistake number 1, I started my day with anything but protein. This was bad. So most mornings, it was a sugary energy drink. Maybe I was semi-healthy and would choose a banana or something, which wasn't a great choice either. And often it was break room stuff. I would get either from the break room at work or 7-Eleven nearby. And I didn't realize that starting my day this way every single day meant I would have zero appetite control. So by noon, I was just ravenously hungry, ready to eat everything in excess. It just sent me on a roller coaster. And by the end of the day, I was overeating and, calling it kind of willpower issues. It drained my willpower, really. And nowadays, I realize the power of protein, not only, for function, but for limiting these cravings. It's key. So now, when I prioritize protein first meal, it stops ruining my day. It's a great buffer. So mistake number 2, I thought eating plants automatically meant fat loss. This is sad, but a lot of people, it seems like they think this. So I thought raw kale was a fat burning food, right? Like it's healthy, it's good for you. There's no protein in it though. It's hard to digest, especially eating it raw. Holy shit. Tasted like literal grass clippings. And it was inflammatory for me. It would bloat up my stomach to the point of, my stomach growling, my coworker next to me, even with their headphones on, like looking over at me, like making sure I was okay. But the fact is, this raw kale wasn't nourishing my body, really. I was checking like a mental, like, oh, this is a healthy food box. Meanwhile, I was bloated up like, that chicken Willy Wonka. So don't fall into the vegan propaganda and, have all these healthy vegetables run amok in your mind. Vegetables do not burn body fat, right? Context matters, so don't fall for it. Mistake number 3, I thought longer training meant more fat loss, right? This was kind of like the video game mentality I had. So if 60 minutes was good, then 90 minutes had to be even better, right? Because I want to lose this fat. I want to get my progress going. So some of my gym sessions were ridiculous. Like I would be there for 3 hours, no joke. And when I did this, even consistently, what happened was my recovery over time tanked, right? Hunger skyrocketed when I got back home, ravenous hunger, want to hit up every drive-through on the way back. My stress hormones, of course, climbed up, and I would do evening sessions, which didn't make it that great. So the longer training sessions really didn't make me leaner. They just made me tired and hungrier. So hurting my training intensity pretty quickly, so I couldn't build muscle as good. So I'd fall off the lifting weights, sooner, and then just settle for shooting basketball hoops at the rec center. And that's what I did. So I'd be off the bandwagon. So mistake number 4, I used cardio to compensate for my bad eating. So this happened, consistently. I ate, pretty bad, but I thought I could fix it with cardio, right? And this, of course, ended up hurting my ability to burn body fat later on. Like, those people who think training for a marathon will help them get thin. So the problem is that when you're training for endurance, right, this teaches your body one thing: get efficient with that cardio, which means save energy, which means burning less calories than you think by doing those endurance sessions. This is key. So the truth is, by doing this and not slowly easing into a cardio routine, I was actually working harder to stay the same, which is impossible, right? Cardio shouldn't be a punishment type of tool. It's a strategy tool for fat loss if you use it right. So this has to be done right for your goals, which is, of course, fat loss. So mistake number 5, I invested too much thought into the body weight scale, right? So if the scale was up, my mood was essentially ruined. If it was down, I felt pretty good, right? But when the trend showed, what looked like a plateau, after weeks, I was probably, actually having the holy grail happen, burning fat and gaining muscle. But on the scale, it looks like a plateau. So, when I thought because the scale wasn't budging, I was like, well, this plan isn't working for me. So I stopped my plan. I didn't stay consistent on it. And after a couple weeks, the scale was still trending the same and I was off the bandwagon. So if I had to, I'd have to measure my progress in a much better way because my waist was shrinking, right? But I wasn't aware of this. My strength was also increasing. So these are good signs: fat loss, muscle gain. So what was happening is my body was recomping, is what it's called, gaining muscle and losing fat at the same time. But the scale had distracted me and really came between the progress that I was working towards. Mistake number 6 is I ignored how important sleep was. I think so many people do this too. I treated sleep like it was an afterthought, so to speak. I was training, 3 hours a day, and then I still wanted to get my video game free time in, right? I had a full-time job. I want to still do my own stuff. And I did it at the expense of my sleep, So going to bed later at night and still having to get up early, same time for work. So yeah, my sleep schedule was screwed by at least like 25% of, the rest I could have got. And then meanwhile, I wonder why I, had such bad cravings for sugar, especially right after waking up. Wondered why my recovery sucked, losing sleep, and then why fat loss felt impossible because you burn a lot of fat in your sleep. So the problem is bad sleep literally rewires hunger hormones and your insulin sensitivity. So this turns you into like a carb monster, making you more lazy, lethargic, and just wired kind of at the same time. It's weird. So no amount of discipline overrides that until you really start taking care of your sleep better. So there's no way of getting around it. Mistake number 7, I saw food as just calories, right? I think we're all marketed to think this way. I thought 300 calories was 300 calories, no matter what food it was. So I would have post-workout meals from like Taco Bell most of the week. And I used to get my classic bean and cheese burrito with red sauce and then add sour cream to it. And I'd eat about 2 or 3 of those as a foundation and then explore other stuff on the menu. Anything else that was on my radar, the quesaritos, the Starburst freezy drinks. I was basically Baja blasting my mouth hole with food items just to fill up my calories in my MyFitnessPal. Right? I didn't know any better, but I wasn't paying attention to, whether I was actually hitting my protein goals at all. And beans are a horrible source for protein. But at the end of the day, calories aren't just calories. It's about what makes up those calories that makes the real difference. It's a big mindset shift. These micronutrients, or the macronutrients like the proteins, carbs, fats, this helps your muscle retention and building muscle. And then even beyond is the micronutrients, the vitamins and minerals. These are all parts of the food beyond calories. So without those, good luck boosting your metabolism, increasing testosterone, and getting rid of inflammation. Food is way more than just calories. So, I had the same calories on my food diary, but completely different outcomes. So really switch your mind on this and realize food is more than just calories. Mistake number 8, I had insulin resistance and made it worse, essentially. So I thought that snacking or eating consistently throughout the day kept my metabolism going. So this was, a big myth I heard from one of my coworkers that I sat next to when I was really trying to get healthy first out. And she's like, oh yeah, I'm just trying this out. Small meals a day, blah, blah, blah. And what it did for me is it kept my insulin elevated all day, which blocks fat release. It signaled my body to store away my food energy throughout the entire day. So I had that faucet on the entire day, having, constant work potlucks, treats, brought in all these people, just having us graze on desserts, taco soup, nacho bars. Like every 15 minutes I'd go up and just eat more and more. And I wasn't broken. I was just constantly triggering the wrong signal. And this led to more overeating and constant hunger. So mistake number 9, I drank sugary energy drinks and fruit juices. So drinks with calories, basically. I thought fruit juice was healthy when I was first starting out. When I first gave up Mountain Dew, my Mountain Dew addiction, like 8 to 12 cans a day, I swapped it for V8 juice only to realize the sugar content is basically the same. And I would, guzzle those fruit juices too. But the fact is, liquid sugar plus 0 fiber is a super high insulin spike. And energy drinks gave, the fake energy and then cravings for more food. So juices made me, super hungry like 30 minutes later, or I could just eat more. It completely steamrolled my appetite. So instead of drinking to hydrate, I was drinking sugary juices, taking in invisible calories to me. So I was drinking sugars going straight to my fat storage. So this is a horrible idea. Mistake number 10, I dieted too hard, too often. So this was a little bit later on when I was still having issues. But eventually, I met another extreme when I stopped the eat constantly metabolism myth, right? I went full bore to the other side. So instead, I was fasting a lot, right? I was going on aggressive calorie cuts, really. And this was This had no structured refeeds to get my metabolism going again. There was really no exit plan. I was just doing it. And I did it in excess for far too long, really. So my metabolism slowed. My brain could recognize, oh, he's not eating as much, dial everything down. So hormones like my thyroid and even my testosterone downregulated from fasting too much. So binge eating followed, trying to, just eat the food, and it was just making me feel worse. But in reality, fat loss isn't about suffering longer. It's about staying in the game with a sustainable plan that isn't overly extreme, that triggers your brain in such a big way, right? Mistake number 11, I drank alcohol and pretended it was fine. So there's no getting around it, at my worst, I was drinking alcohol, especially beer, every weekend, at least Friday night, Saturday night. Beer pong became my new hobby and was a big hit for, of course, all the parties I was going to when I was like 21. So I even had a foldable beer pong table I would bring to the parties. And here's the issue. Alcohol doesn't just add calories. It shuts down fat burning. It wrecks your sleep, and it inflames your gut and your liver too. So that means increased appetite the next night and the following day, right? All the way throughout that day, making it easier to store those calories as fat because the liver is so swamped trying to multitask, breaking down the poison that you're drinking. The liver is just like, okay, all of this needs to get sent to fat because we got to deal with this toxin right now. So even now, if I go out on a rare occasion, I drink less than 5 times a year. So if I have more than 3 drinks a night, I can recognize that single night causes days of progress to be stalled, right? I'm tracking everything diligently now, and it's a setback for sure. Mistake number 12, I used weekends as an excuse. So I followed everything right through the entire week. And I felt, it's time to lay back and enjoy the weekend and splurge. And so many people do this. Calories and macros don't count on weekends, right? That's the running joke. But the fact is, this mentality is exactly what kept me stuck for years, even when I had everything dialed. Weekends, that erased my discipline and the deficit that I put in place for that entire week. And fat loss doesn't care what day it is, right? Your body tracks your totals over time, not your intentions on a given Tuesday. So if your goal is fat loss, you should realize that bucking down and controlling your shit on the weekends might be the only way for you to finally start seeing results. That's it. Mistake 13. I didn't control my environment. This is a big mental thing. So as I mentioned earlier, at my old office job, my old coworkers, they would constantly bring in treats, potlucks like every week. Not even joking. It seemed like it was just free food everywhere, brunches, luncheons, food trucks would even visit our building, like visiting on rotations, like for a specific day of the week. So everyone's like, the food truck, are you going to get anything at the food truck? So that on top of outside of work. So my home life, at this point, I was living with my dad. And, he would keep the seasonal Reese's in the pantry stocked up, basically like a freaking Costco. And for my mind, that high food drive and impulse, it just made me over-rationalize completely, just sabotaging my diet plan because those were there, day after day. All these treats, whether I was at home or work, it became the most toxic environment that kept me fat and addicted to those ultra-processed foods because they were there and I could have them. And the biggest issue through this is I relied on willpower instead of instilling the values that would guide my choices, or just flat out removing the friction by controlling my environment. Now I live on my own. I don't have these issues. So if you're constantly battling with your environment, that's keeping you stuck into your old identity, and it's probably never going to work long term. So control your shit. So that's it for today. If you have any specific questions or want a video, regarding any specific topic or question you have, I have a little form below the video. So just write them there or comment it, and I'll make a video for you, as thorough as possible on these things to ensure you're able to get the results you want. So comment below for the algorithm, if anything, and what tips would you give these people, or what obstacles and mistakes have you made? Share your strategies as well with the group, and let's all work towards getting that dream body for life and maintaining it. So that's it. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.